We were at the bar when a man walked up, boldly took my wife by the hand, and pulled her aside like I wasn't even there. He stared at me and said, "A queen like her belongs to a real king, not some spineless boy like you." I downed my drink in silence. Then came the sound of breaking glass. She never came home. The next day, she left 98 missed calls. I didn't answer a single one. Instead, I took my revenge on her entire family. Let's rewind. That night started like any other Thursday. We were at Harper's, her favorite lounge. Dim lights, overpriced drinks, too many mirrors. Emily had spent 2 hours getting ready, like she always did when she wanted attention. Not mine. She looked stunning, don't get me wrong. Red dress, slit up the side, glossy lips that didn't taste like my brand anymore. She laughed a little too loud, smiled a little too wide. And me? I was there like a prop. Jason Reynolds, the quiet husband, steady as stone, stupid as hell. I started noticing it before that night. The perfume that wasn't hers. The phone she guarded like it held state secrets. The late girls' nights that ended with her stumbling in past 3 a.m., hair messy, eyes too alive. But I swallowed it. I wanted to believe. I wanted to be wrong. That night ripped the mask off. I was halfway through my second whiskey when he appeared. Tall, tattooed, cocky as sin. His name, I later found out, was Tyler Brooks. But to me, he'll always be the man who walked up and owned my wife like she was a piece of jewelry he lent me for a night out. No hesitation. No shame. He grabbed her hand like he'd done it 1,000 times, pulled her right off that stool. And her? Emily followed like a dog to her owner. No glance back. Not a word. Just that smirk, like I was the punchline to a joke they'd been telling behind my back for months. When he said it, that line about a queen and a real king, I swear my blood ran cold. But I didn't flinch. I didn't scream. I didn't swing. I downed my drink like it was water, nodded like I'd just heard the weather, and stared at the glass in my hand. That's when I heard it. Crash. Shattered glass on tile. I looked up. She was gone. And I sat there. Alone. For a long time. The bartender tried to ask if I was okay. I tipped him 100 and told him to mind his own. I walked out of that place into the cold night air with one thought burning in my head. This wasn't over. She didn't come home. Not that night. Not the next morning. Just her name flooding my screen. 98 missed calls. 100 unread messages. Jason, please. It's not what you think. Come home. Let's talk. Don't do anything crazy. She was too late. You don't get to shatter a man like that and expect him to beg for the pieces. I drove to her mother's place first. Knocked on the door with knuckles still white from gripping the wheel. Carol answered, all fake smiles and church lady perfume, and tried to hug me. You knew, I whispered. She froze. The smile vanished. You knew, didn't you? About Emily and that walking dumpster fire. Jason, please, she stammered. It's complicated. Save it. I dropped the photo envelope on the kitchen counter. Screenshots. Hotel receipts. GPS logs. The whole ugly scrapbook. Then I turned to her father, Greg, who'd always treated me like the assistant manager of Emily's life, and said, your daughter made her choice. But I'm making mine too. I wasn't bluffing. That weekend, I told her sister Madison everything. The truth about Emily's lies, her secret credit cards, her little trysts while I was working overtime. I sent the screenshots to her job, where she'd just begged for a promotion. I made sure the HOA found out about the illegal herbs she was running under my name. She didn't just betray me. She underestimated me. And that's a mistake she'll regret for the rest of her smug, backstabbing life. But we're not there yet. We're still at the beginning. This is the story of how a loyal man was turned into a hurricane. And hurricanes don't apologize. I didn't answer the 98 missed calls. Not one. Watching her name flood my screen felt like justice humming through my veins. Emily. 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 Over and over again. I stared at the phone like it was a dead thing, buzzing in desperation, clawing at life. I wasn't going to give it CPR. The first voicemail was pathetic. Jason, I need to explain. Please. You don't understand. The second? Angrier. Why are you ignoring me? We need to talk. By the 7th, she was crying. By the 13th, she was screaming. By the 30th, she switched tactics, soft, sugary, like a snake coiling gently. You're the love of my life. That meant nothing, I swear. I was drunk. It was a stupid mistake. It wasn't a mistake. It was routine. And that bar moment, the way she followed him like a show dog, The way he dismissed me like a busboy, that was no drunken accident. That was rehearsed. She didn't come home for 2 days. When she did, I was ready. I stayed calm, colder than I've ever been. She walked into our apartment like nothing happened, like I hadn't watched her leave with another man, like my dignity hadn't been dragged across a floor sticky with spilled drinks and betrayal. She was wearing that same red dress. I don't know if it was meant to seduce or manipulate, but all it did was ignite the fury I'd been holding in a steel box behind my ribs. "Hi," she said, as if we were starting over. I didn't answer. She dropped her purse, fake casual. "Look, Jason, can we talk? I need to explain." I stood in the kitchen, arms folded, watching her like I didn't know her, because at this point, I didn't. "What's his name?" I asked. Her eyes flinched. That tiny tick of guilt and calculation. "Whose name?" "The man who pulled you away from your husband like he owned you." Silence. "You know what? Doesn't matter," I said. "You can tell it to your new boyfriend's parole officer when he's explaining why his car got keyed and his dog went missing." She blinked. "What? Jason, what the hell are you talking about?" "Oh, come on, Em. You think I was going to sit back after being humiliated in public? After watching the woman I loved melt into another man's arms like I didn't exist? You don't know what you saw." That line made me laugh. I saw a woman who doesn't love her husband, who's been lying for months, maybe longer. Her voice cracked. It wasn't serious. "He means nothing." I stepped forward. "But he meant something that night, didn't he? Enough to follow him without a word. Enough to leave your husband sitting alone, sipping whiskey and humiliation." "You're twisting it." "No, Emily," I said. "I'm untwisting it. I'm seeing things for what they really are." She tried to cry. Or maybe she did cry. I didn't care. The tears meant nothing to me anymore. I'd seen this act before. The remorse theater she puts on when the spotlight's on her mistakes. She tried to touch me. I stepped back. "You don't get to touch me. Not anymore." Her face hardened. The tears vanished like a light switch flipped. And there she was, the real Emily. "You think you're some victim?" she snapped. "You think you're perfect? You've been boring, Jason. Predictable. Safe. I needed passion. Fire. You gave me spreadsheets and frozen pizza." I exhaled slowly. "You should have just left me then." She smiled, cruel, razor-edged. "I will. And I'll do better." I nodded. "Good. Because I already started packing your things." Her jaw dropped. "In fact," I said, reaching for the envelope on the counter, "here's a list of everything I paid for in this apartment. I expect your share wired by Friday. Or I'll sue." She stood there, stunned. Not because I was angry, but because I wasn't. Because I was ice cold. Sharp. Prepared. She turned and stormed out. No slamming doors. No goodbye. Just silence. But I wasn't broken. I was becoming something else. After she left, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't smash plates or punch walls or pour myself into a bottle of whiskey. No. I just stood there, hands on the counter, staring at the place where she'd stood, where she'd spat that line, "I'll do better." That was the moment I stopped being her husband. That was the moment I became a man with a plan. There's something dangerous about a man who's been humiliated but not broken. Something unpredictable about someone who stays calm after the world flips upside down. Because you can't read him, and you don't know what he's going to do next. Neither did she. The next few days were quiet, but not empty. I was moving. Strategically. Like a surgeon with a scalpel and a score to settle. I wasn't just going to erase her from my life. I was going to make sure she felt the cut. She underestimated me. Most people did. Emily always liked to paint me as the nice guy. The one who never raised his voice, never argued too long, never questioned her weird excuses or sketchy nights out. But what she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I never forgot a single lie she told. I had a file. Not just in my head. An actual file. Screenshots, emails, statements. I'd started it months ago, quietly, after I saw a text pop up on her screen from someone saved as Monica, asking, "Was last night too rough?" Emily said Monica was a coworker. And yeah, the messages were from a woman's number. Until I traced it. Burner phone. Belonged to a guy named Corey Simmons. Another little secret she thought she buried. I let her think I believed her. That was the night I started collecting data. And now, with her out of the apartment and full mask off, I opened the folder and smiled. Corey Simmons. Tyler Brooks. Ben Callahan. 3 names. 3 different guys she'd been entertaining while I was breaking my back, trying to build something real with her. One of them had even borrowed my car while I was on a work trip. She told me her brother needed it. She doesn't even have a brother. The storm behind my smile was rising. I started with her job. Emily worked at a boutique PR firm. Image was everything to them. Sleek, stylish, scandal-free. So I printed a few of the more colorful photos I'd found. You'd be amazed how many selfies people take in the mirror after doing things they shouldn't be proud of, especially when they're trying to bait jealous lovers. I had pics of her in hotels she swore she'd never been in. Texts where she joked about taking Jason's money while riding the real king. I mailed them, anonymously, to her boss. I knew it would rattle her. I wanted it to. 3 days later, she showed up at the apartment again. I saw her through the peephole before she even knocked. Her hair was messy, eyeliner smudged. She looked less like a queen and more like a girl who had no castle left. I opened the door. "Jason, what the hell did you do?" she asked. Not a greeting. No apology. Straight to accusation. I shrugged. Not much. Just returned the favor. You sent those to my boss. Are you crazy? No. Crazy is thinking you could do what you did and walk away clean. I got suspended. You ruined my reputation. Good. Now we're even. Her voice cracked again. That whiny, manipulative tone she always used when she knew she'd pushed too far. I made mistakes, okay? But you're being cruel now. I smiled. No, Emily. You were cruel. I'm just efficient. She didn't expect that. She stood there for a second, lips parting like she wanted to cry again, but nothing came. And then she turned and walked down the hall without another word. But I wasn't done. That was just the warm-up. I still had her family to deal with. Because loyalty goes both ways. And theirs was about to be tested. Emily always said her family was everything. But what she really meant was, they always take my side. Her mother, Carol, the passive-aggressive puppeteer who smiled while slicing you with her words. Her father, Greg, the suburban king of silence who pretended to be neutral but never once called out his daughter's lies. And Madison, the golden sister. The one who always looked at me like I was a temp hire in Emily's life. I used to play nice with them. Used to smile through gritted teeth during holidays and nod politely when Carol said things like, "A real man knows when to let his wife lead." But not anymore. Emily had shattered something sacred. And if her family had enabled her to do it, then they could burn in the fallout too. It started with a brunch invite. Carol messaged me 2 days after Emily's last visit, pretending like everything was fine. "Hi, Jason. Would love to catch up this weekend. We miss you. Come by Sunday. I'm making those cinnamon rolls you love." I stared at that message for a full minute before I responded. "I'll bring dessert." Sunday came, and I showed up with a flash drive in my pocket and an appetite for truth. The table was set perfectly. White tablecloth, glassware shining, and smiles, fake ones, like plastic stuck on their faces. Emily wasn't there. They told me she was staying with a friend. I didn't ask who. I already knew. "So," Carol said, pouring me coffee like I was still her son-in-law. "How have you two been doing? I know relationships go through rough patches." I leaned forward and smiled. "We're past the patch. We've hit the cliff." Greg cleared his throat, suddenly interested in the pattern of his napkin. Madison raised an eyebrow. "She told us you've been lashing out." "Oh," I said, pulling out the flash drive and placing it gently on the table like a loaded weapon. "Want to see why?" Carol's smile wavered. "Jason, what is this?" "Evidence. Screenshots. Hotel receipts. Audio clips. Your daughter's greatest hits. Want to see how many times she lied to all of us?" Madison leaned back. "Jason, this is unnecessary." I cut her off. "No. What's unnecessary is all of you pretending Emily's a saint while she's out there using me like a doormat and laughing behind my back. You knew. You all knew something. And no one said a word." Greg finally spoke. "We didn't know the extent of it." "You knew enough," I snapped. "Carol, you covered for her when she stayed over at your house that night. She wasn't with you. She was at the W Hotel with a guy named Corey. I found the charge on her joint card. You co-signed the lie." Her mouth fell open, but I didn't stop. "Greg, remember when you borrowed my car for a weekend emergency? That was the weekend she let her lover use it. You covered for her too." I stood up. "So here's how it goes. I'm done. You're done. She wants to be a queen? Let her build her own damn kingdom." Carol's hands trembled as she reached for her cup. "You can't just erase us. Watch me." I left the flash drive on the table and walked out without touching my coffee. An hour later, Emily called. Voicemail again. This one was venom. You think humiliating my family makes you the bigger person? You just made enemies out of people who used to love you. I smiled at the message. Love? No, they never loved me. They loved the version of me that bent to Emily's story, the side character in the fairy tale she wrote with invisible ink. But I was done being the quiet one, done being the man they underestimated. If they thought that was the end, they hadn't seen the finale. Next up, Tyler Brooks, the king who stole my queen. And I was about to dethrone him. Tyler Brooks, the man who walked into a bar and treated me like a ghost. The man who grabbed my wife's hand in front of everyone like he owned her. The man who told me I was a boy while he was the king. Yeah, that guy. I couldn't stop thinking about the way Emily looked at him. Hungry, devoted, like he was her personal religion. The way she followed him, heels clicking behind his swagger like she was hypnotized. And the way he didn't even flinch as he tore my life in half like it was nothing but tissue paper. That night haunted me. But that night also gave me fuel. I found out where he lived within 24 hours. A friend of a friend worked in apartment leasing. A couple $100 later, I had his full address, phone number, emergency contact, and, best of all, his job info. Tyler worked at an auto performance shop on the edge of town. Sleek place. Custom cars, blacked-out windows, chrome wheels, the kind of environment where men like him thrived. Loud engines, louder egos. I didn't go there to fight. I went there to ruin. Monday afternoon, I pulled up in my clean gray Honda Civic. Subtle. Boring. Just like he probably imagined me. Invisible in plain sight. I walked in like I was shopping. The guy at the front desk didn't even blink when I gave a fake name. Said I was looking to surprise my brother with an engine upgrade for his birthday. Asked if I could speak to Ty. He showed up all smiles and swagger. Didn't recognize me at first. Yo, what's up, man? You into turbo kits or full builds? His grin was cocky, like he already assumed I was beneath him. That's what made it better. I shook his hand. Firm grip. Actually, I'm into justice. His face shifted like a slow car crash. Eyes narrowed, jaw tightened. Wait. Yeah. Jason. Emily's husband. Silence. Long and loud. He took a breath, probably debating whether to throw a punch or fake an apology. But I got there first. I'm not here to swing. I'm here to warn you. He scoffed. Warn me? Bro, you already lost. She chose me. I smiled. No, she didn't. She lost everything. Her job. Her family. And you're next. Tyler folded his arms. You're bluffing. Oh, really? I pulled a flash drive from my pocket, twin to the one I gave her family. This is everything. Your texts. Hotel check-ins. Pictures. Some taken from angles I bet you didn't know existed. His face drained of color. I'm sending this to your parole officer, I added casually. Turns out you've got a little history, huh? Assault, destruction of property, violating restraining orders. He lunged forward, grabbing my shirt. You do that, I'll end you. I didn't move. Touch me again, and you'll go back to prison for a long time. Remember, you're the king. I'm just the spineless boy, right? His grip loosened. I stepped back, straightened my shirt, and looked him dead in the eye. You should have kept your hands to yourself. Then I left. No police. No threats. Just fear, delivered cold and clean. That night, Emily called again. This time, her voice was shaky. What did you do to Tyler? I didn't answer. I didn't have to. The next morning, she showed up at my apartment for the last time. You're destroying everything, she said. Her hair was unbrushed. Her voice cracked. You're not the man I married. I looked her in the eyes. No, I'm not. I'm the man you created. She stood there, quiet, for a second. Then she turned and walked away for good. But the revenge wasn't what healed me. That came later. After I burned everything down, I had to figure out what the ashes meant. Revenge burns hot. But when the flames settle, what's left? Silence. Ash. A man standing in the rubble of everything he thought was real. Emily was gone. For good this time. No more calls. No more voice messages. No more fake apologies dressed as emotional breakdowns. Tyler had gone dark too. Word was, he'd quit the shop and skipped town. Maybe he sensed the walls closing in. Maybe he just didn't want to deal with the humiliation. Either way, he disappeared, just like her love for me had. At first, I felt invincible, like I'd finally won. I had taken them both down without lifting a fist. I hit where it hurt. Pride, image, power. And I watched them crumble from the comfort of my living room. Whiskey in hand, old photos in the trash, and a playlist full of breakup anthems playing in the background. But the silence that followed, that was louder than the storm ever was. You don't spend years with someone and walk away without carrying something, even if that someone turned out to be poison in a pretty bottle. Emily wasn't just my wife. She was my best friend, once. The person I called first when I got promoted. The one who rubbed my back when I pulled long shifts. The one who told me I was worth something. She also lied with those same lips. Said forever and meant until someone better shows up. Held my hand while building an escape plan with another man's fingerprints all over it. I hated her, but I hated myself more. For not seeing it sooner. For letting things slide. For accepting breadcrumbs and calling it a feast. I'd been so afraid of losing her that I never realized I already had. Long before the bar. Long before Tyler. She was gone emotionally, and I just didn't want to admit it. So I started walking. Every evening. Just me and the pavement. I'd walk through the city, headphones in, hoodie up, trying to find pieces of myself scattered in the quiet corners of my mind. Sometimes I'd end up at places that used to mean something. The diner where we had our first date, the bridge we kissed under in the rain, the park bench where we once dreamed about having kids. Each place held a ghost. Each ghost whispered the same thing. She never really loved you. Not the way you deserved. That truth was bitter, but also freeing. I started therapy, something I used to roll my eyes at. But talking helped. Saying things out loud that I'd buried for years. About how I felt like a placeholder in my own marriage. About the way I molded myself to be who she wanted instead of who I really was. Turns out, healing isn't loud. It's quiet. A slow rebuild. Brick by brick. Some days were good. Some were brutal. I'd wake up with phantom memories. The way she laughed when she was being genuine. The way her nose crinkled when she was annoyed. And for a split second, I'd miss her. Then I'd remember the red dress. The hotel receipts. The man who grabbed her like I was invisible. And just like that, the pain turned back into purpose. I started reconnecting with old friends. People I'd pushed away during the Emily years. I poured myself into work. Not just to stay busy, but because I finally saw my own worth, outside of what she reflected back at me. I wasn't the boring guy she made me believe I was. I was loyal, consistent, kind. And those things weren't weaknesses, they were gold. She just didn't know how to hold it. Now I did. But I wasn't ready to move on yet. First, I had to forgive the one person I'd been blaming the most. Myself. Forgiveness doesn't come all at once. It comes in flashes. Like headlights in the dark, sudden, blinding, then gone again. I stood in front of the mirror one morning, brushing my teeth, and I barely recognized the man looking back. Not because I looked broken, I didn't. In fact, for the first time in a long time, there was something solid in my eyes. But beneath that new armor was a man who'd been torn down, piece by piece, by someone who was supposed to protect him. And the truth was, I let it happen. That was the hardest pill to swallow. Not Emily's lies. Not her lovers. Not even the betrayal in front of strangers. It was me. The way I saw the signs and looked the other way. The way I held on to a fantasy while reality was screaming in my face. I thought love meant enduring. I thought marriage meant sacrificing, even when you're the only one bleeding. But what I really did was abandon myself. I let her laugh at me behind closed doors. Let her use my kindness as a shield while she played house with other men. Let her gaslight me into thinking I was paranoid when I was just paying attention. So no, forgiveness didn't come easy. But it came. I wrote a letter. Never sent it. Just needed to get the words out. I wrote it like I was talking to myself. To the man who watched it all fall apart and still kept showing up every day, heart in hand, hoping things would turn around. Dear me, you didn't deserve that. Not the lies. Not the betrayal. Not the public humiliation. But here's the part you need to hear. You're not weak because you loved her. You're strong because you survived her. You tried. You fought. You believed. That's not something to be ashamed of. Stop blaming yourself for being loyal. Start thanking yourself for walking away. Love. The version of you that's finally awake. After that, something shifted. I stopped checking her social media. Stopped wondering who she was with. Stopped fantasizing about revenge scenarios where I storm into a wedding and ruin her new fairy tale. Because none of that mattered anymore. She was gone. And I was still here. And slowly, I was learning how to like being alone. Not just tolerate it, but actually enjoy it. I'd cook for myself. Watch movies she would have rolled her eyes at. Work out without thinking about how I looked in someone else's gaze. I started reading again. Books with torn pages and bent spines. Books about rebirth, strength, and yes, even love. Real love. Because I still believed in it. Even after everything. Just not the kind I had with her. The kind where someone sees you fully, flaws and all, and doesn't look for an upgrade. The kind where you don't have to compete with strangers for your partner's attention. The kind that grows in quiet moments, not just in filtered photos and fake smiles. I wasn't ready to open my heart yet, but I wasn't afraid of it anymore, either. One night, I ran into an old friend, Laura, at a coffee shop. We talked for hours. She didn't ask about Emily. She didn't pity me. She just laughed at my dry jokes and told me I looked different. Stronger. I didn't feel a spark, not yet. But for the first time, I felt seen. And that was enough. They say closure is something you give yourself. I used to think that was just a phrase people said when they couldn't get answers. But it's true. There comes a moment when you realize the apology you're waiting for, it's never coming. And you don't need it. It happened on a Tuesday morning. Quiet, nothing special. I was sipping coffee, scrolling emails, when I saw her name pop up one last time. Emily Reynolds. No message in the preview. Just her name. Like a ghost knocking politely before it vanishes. I stared at the screen for a moment, then opened it. Jason, I know you probably hate me. I don't blame you. I deserved everything you did. I just wanted you to know I lost everything. Tyler's gone. My job's gone. My family barely speaks to me. I thought I was chasing something real. But it was all noise. You were the real one. I just didn't see it in time. I hope someday you can forgive me. I hope you find someone who treats you better than I did. Goodbye. Emily. I didn't reply. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't need to anymore. Her words didn't stir anything. No heartbreak. No rage. Just stillness. Like reading the end of a book you already finished and shelved long ago. And that's when I realized I had already healed. The war inside me was over. She wasn't my problem anymore. Her chaos, her drama, her manipulations, I'd let them go. And in letting her go, I found something better than revenge, peace. It didn't happen overnight. Healing came in steps, in silence, in small victories. It came when I could pass our old places and feel nothing. When I could say her name out loud without bitterness coating my tongue. When I could laugh, genuinely laugh, without her shadow looming over it. One day, I went back to Harper's. The bar where everything fell apart. Not to relive the pain. To reclaim the memory. I sat at the same table. Ordered the same whiskey. But this time, there was no weight on my chest. No heat crawling up my neck. Just a man in a bar, sipping his drink, owning the space he once disappeared in. And across the room, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the mirror. I didn't see a victim. I saw a survivor. A man who walked through hell and didn't come out the same. Came out better. A few weeks later, I saw Laura again. The girl from the coffee shop. We went for a walk. No pressure. No expectations. Just conversation. We talked about music, books, where we wanted to travel someday. She smiled at me the way I used to dream someone would. Soft, sincere, without a mask. And maybe, just maybe, that's where the next chapter begins. But whether she stays in my life or not, I'm good. Because I'm no longer waiting for someone to choose me. I choose myself. Every day. So here's my advice, if you're still reading. If you're the man sitting in the silence wondering what went wrong. Stop chasing explanations. Stop blaming yourself. Stop trying to glue broken pieces back together just because you're afraid of empty space. Walk away. Rebuild. Don't just survive her betrayal. Grow from it. Because one day, you'll look back at the night everything broke. And realize that's the night you were set free.